If you think you've been hearing about Jeremy Corbyn's reshuffle for the last 3 days, you wouldn't be wrong. The Labour leader started it on Monday. But after he sacked this man, his shadow Europe minister Pat McFadden, there came a trio of resignations from Labour's lower ranks.
Morning, Mr Corbyn.
Jeremy Corbyn emerged from his home this morning after a long night, but he had to go back to the days after the terror attacks in Paris to find out why he'd sacked Pat McFadden.
No one forces them to kill innocent people in Paris or Beirut, and unless we are clear about that, we will fail even to be able to understand the threat that we face, let alone confront it.
At the time, Jeremy Corbyn was sat 2 rows in front, and it was interpreted as condemnation of the Labour leader's response to the mass shootings. Today, Mr McFadden said his leader takes a different view from him on who is to blame for terrorist attacks.
He takes a different worldview, where he thinks this is more a response to what the West is doing. This is not.
And how damaging do you think that is for the Labour Party, that he has that worldview?
Well, it's not a question of loyalty, it's a question of a difference of substance between us.
But it goes beyond just having a discussion and debate when you're actually then seeking to undermine the leader, and that is unacceptable, and I don't think anyone would allow that to happen.
Pat McFadden then was sacked for disloyalty, and that immediately prompted 2 resignations from the shadow ministerial team, Jonathan Reynolds and Stephen Doughty. Hilary Benn, the shadow foreign secretary, avoided the sack. He now has an understanding with Jeremy Corbyn to be more collegiate. But Maria Eagle, who supports the renewal of Trident, was shunted out of the defence brief and replaced by Emily Thornberry, who, like Jeremy Corbyn, doesn't think Trident should be renewed. In protest at her promotion, the shadow defence minister, Kevan Jones, handed in his resignation.
We have a long tradition of supporting our armed forces and being serious on defence, and that's what I hope to do, is to keep pressing that policies from the backbenches.
And do you think with this decision overnight that Labour is no longer serious, as you say it should be, about defence?
Well, I don't think we are.
So what happened to all that new politics under Jeremy Corbyn, where disagreement and debate was welcome?
Does this mean that you've been muzzled?
I haven't been muzzled. I'm going to be carrying on doing my job exactly as before, which is speaking for Labour on foreign policy.
It all made for easy pickings in the Commons today when Jeremy Corbyn accused David Cameron of a slow response to the floods.
The idea that this individual would be faster in responding to floods when it takes him 3 days to carry out a reshuffle is frankly laughable.
But most Labour MPs were not laughing today.
So, Chris, it's all turned into a bit of a shambles, this. How damaging to Mr Corbyn's authority is it?
Well, Mark, I think if you look at Mr Corbyn's shadow cabinet team, those who sit around the table with him, you might well argue that he's increased his authority. He now has a defence spokeswoman who agrees with him that Trident should not be renewed, and because the party's got a review coming up on that, that may make his life a whole lot easier. And then you've got Hilary Benn, with whom he disagreed so publicly over airstrikes in Syria. The 2 men have now got what's called a new understanding that Mr Benn will be more collegiate towards the leader. In fact, Mr Benn's office told me today they're not entirely sure how it's all going to work, so we'll have to see. I think if the damage has been done anywhere, it's been from the outside looking in. Voters may not have heard of those members who have been reshuffled or resigned today, but they may well take a view on how this reorganisation has played out.